Okay, welcome back to Yogis on the Road, and this is Giuseppe, and I am here in New York City. And today it's sort of a special episode because we have Alexis in Goa right now. And
Hi.
hey, Alexis, how you doing?
I'm tired. It's like 4:21 a.m.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you're having a good time. I think you are having a good time.
Yeah.
All right, that's pretty
Yes.
awesome. Now, on the other side of the globe, we do have two super cool guests that run the LA Yoga Club, and we have Erica and Spiro. Hi, guys.
Hey.
Hi, Giuseppe.
Nice
Hi,
to
Alex.
be here.
Hey. All right, cool. So we have a phone call that spans 10 and a half hours. Yeah, that's pretty cool. We almost did a 360. So, we wanted to do this to sort of get in touch with, you guys from LA Yoga Club and see if Alexis was alive and everything was going well in India. So I think we succeeded.
Yeah. Hi, guys.
Hi,
Thank
Alexa.
you for having us.
Nice
Hi,
to
Alexis.
talk to you.
Hi, Giuseppe.
Hey, I mean, I'm sure we'll meet in person at some point, but, this is the best we could do so far.
I look forward to that.
Awesome.
Yeah, I look forward to that.
So, guys, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourselves? How did you guys meet? What's the LA Yoga Club and how cool you are?
Yeah.
Erica, do you have a... Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, we originally met actually here in LA. Sharat was on tour, and Spiro and I very briefly met when we were both practicing down in LA. And then maybe 6 months later, we both went to Mysore, unbeknownst to the other person, and we met there. And we haven't really left each other's sides since. So we both sort of had separate ideas of heading to LA and starting a little yoga school. And when we met, it just felt like, let's do this together. Let's go give this a try. That kind of sums it up. Spiro, how would you sum it up?
Well, we also got together with us doing the Hanuman Chalisa a little bit every day.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we started hanging out.
Oh, yeah, I did read about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you said the Hanuman
I had heard
Chalisa.
that. Yeah, I had heard that Spiro was teaching the Hanuman Chalisa, and so I asked if he would teach me, and he said, "Oh, maybe, And so I had to come and drink coffee every day and ask again to learn the Hanuman Chalisa, and so finally he said, "Okay, I'll teach you." And so we learned one verse every day. So for 40 days we would sit and chant together and learn another line, learn another verse from the Hanuman Chalisa, and that's sort of how we got to know one another.
That's pretty sweet.
And then we did
I find that like very romantic. I was wondering if you could just explain to the audience what the Hanuman Chalisa entails.
The Hanuman Chalisa is a Hindi song to Hanuman that roughly goes along the Ramayana, but from Hanuman's perspective in 40 verses. And it's used a lot. Once we learned it, we had flown back to the States, although we also went to the Ashtavanayaka Yatra. And at one of the Vinayakas, a whole group of
the Ashtavanayaka Yatra is, I'm just going to explain what the Ashtavanayaka Yatra is. It's 8 different naturally occurring Vinayakas, so 8 naturally occurring Ganeshas that are mostly through Maharashtra. And so we were traveling around for a couple of days, visiting each of these Ganeshas, Ganapatis. Sorry to interrupt, Sarah. keep going.
No, that's exactly what happened. And in one cave or space, I mean, these are sort of very stoned. I mean, it's like looking at a rock and saying, "I totally see Ganesh." And someone else might be saying, "No, it's a rock."
Very amorphous.
And then they paint him orange, and by the time we got there, of course, there was no doubt. But they're pretty strange. And so we went in, and there was a Hanuman murti at one of the Vinayakas, and we sang a Hanuman Chalisa, and everyone joined in. It was like a Bollywood film.
Oh, wow.
By the end, we had about
Dude, that's one of my dreams, man.
Because we couldn't speak each other's language. But once he saw that we knew the Hanuman Chalisa, best of friends.
We were so close. Best.
Wow.
Then we flew back to the U.S. and spent a little time in New York, and then flew to New Mexico, where I am now, and went to the Hanuman temple here, the Neem Karoli Baba temple, and sang during it was the Hanuman Jayanti. Yeah, so it was 108 Hanuman Chalisas. So we came and sang that before we made it to Los Angeles.
Wow, that's a sweet story. It's like a movie worthy,
It was a little bit,
amazing. What a great beginning to this project.
So basically, like after that, like how does it improve? It's like you guys like the bar is pretty high. How do you top that off? How long ago was that?
That was 3 years ago.
How many?
Yeah.
3.
Oh, okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
So what's been happening in the past 3 years? You guys opened up the LA Yoga Club, right?
Yes.
And you guys teach Ashtanga, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Cool.
It's largely Mysore.
Yeah, could you guys talk a little bit about how things grew? How it grew from the Hanuman Chalisa into the LA Yoga Club?
Erica?
Yes. So we landed back in LA, and that was sort of our final stop on this sojourn that we'd made. And both of us had been traveling for some time and teaching, and we had different bases. My base was primarily San Francisco Bay Area, where I'm from, and Spiro's was New York and New Mexico, where he spent a lot of time. But neither of us had a physical space of our own when we met in India, and so we said, should we move to LA together? And we had this auspicious beginning of Hanuman Chalisas and Ganapati Yatra, and we sort of visited all of the homes that we had and got everyone sort of okay as we went along, and came back to LA and just sort of we sort of hit the ground running. And Spiro and Eddie Stern had worked together for a long time. Eddie was Spiro's teacher, and then Spiro worked there. And they had some thoughts about opening a yoga school in LA before I came into the picture. And so we went out to New York at one point, Spiro and I did, very early after having moved to LA. We flew out to New York and met up with Eddie and said, we want to start this yoga school, but we know that you were also interested in opening a school in LA. What do you think? And he said, great, I'm into it. Let's make sister schools. So at the time he had Brooklyn Yoga Club, and he said, let's make LA Yoga Club, and we'll have sort of this channel between the two cities, New York and LA, sort of a channel that's already there. There's a lot of people who go between the two. And we said, great, let's do it. So we became LA Yoga Club, and we started just teaching out of our home. At first, we were teaching out of our living room in Silver Lake. We had these bookshelves, and we put cardboard underneath the feet of the bookshelves. And every time we had class, we would just push the bookshelf into the bedroom and move things out of the way. And
love it.
for a long time. We weren't like buying anything that we couldn't just fit in a backpack and bring with us, because we sort of both still had that traveler's mentality, and yeah, things just sort of grew, and so here we are today. We're now in the Arts District of downtown Los Angeles, and we have a little program going. And
wow, that's awesome. So, yeah.
That's kind of it, yeah.
So you guys connect also with the other people teaching Ashtanga in Los Angeles at all, or?
Very much. We contacted everyone. I mean, the closest person is Noah.
In Silver Lake, right?
In Silver Lake. And so we checked in with him, and he's like, fine, no problem. And, I'm friends with Maya, and I guess she's in Venice Beach right now.
Cool.
Yep.
That's awesome. Cool. The whole point while I wanted this to happen, yeah. No, I was just saying the whole point why I wanted this to happen is to, come to LA and then, have a Ashtanga place. So I found it. That's all good. That's perfect. I'm satisfied.
Yeah. David Miliotis, we checked in with, we reached out to everyone. Petra, who was in, on the west side at that point. Topanga.
Morgan, who's in Santa Monica. There's a lot of, Ashtanga yoga teachers in Los Angeles, and I will say that most teachers in Los Angeles are in some sort of connection, and it feels very sweet. It feels like the conversation is quite open between everyone. And when we first moved here, a couple people were really trying to get together regularly, on moon days and things like that, to check in with each other. And of course, it's so challenging wrangling a bunch of yogis together, but we're in pretty good touch with everyone, and that's been a very sweet part of being in LA.
Yeah, I feel that's pretty awesome, because it sort of like creates a nice and strong community, and there is a lot of interconnectivity and acceptance. So I think that kind of like...
it feels that.
Yeah. It also kind of connects to your kinship project a little bit, right? So it's sort of like... creating a community that sort of like moves forward, like together,
Absolutely. I mean, when we started talking about kinship and planning that gathering, we absolutely reached out to everyone in LA, and, it was really wonderful that we felt like we had that sort of friendship, that we could do that, and that they were responsive to it.
How did that all start?
I think that's really the direction that things are going.
Yeah, that is just us reconnecting to Alexis. So it's here we go. She's back. So that I was just explaining the noises that we heard.
No problem.
And there we go again. So do you guys want to talk a little bit about how that came to life, and what sort of like propelled you to make this happen?
Kinship?
Yes.
Yeah.
Start with Kavanaugh.
First.
What do you say, Spiro?
Say that again? Oh, start with Kavanaugh.
Yeah.
So, the Brett Kavanaugh trials, I don't know if you remember those. It was in, I want to say 2016, the fall of 2016. And Christine Blasey Ford went to testify against a federal committee, in front of a federal committee against Brett Kavanaugh, as he was up for Supreme Court election. Mm-hmm. And for me, as a sexual assault survivor, and someone who had a very similar experience to the one that Christine Blasey Ford had, I wasn't in trial against my abuser in front of a federal committee, but I did have to go to court and address the person who abused me when I was very young. And that to me just really sparked something. And I think for a lot of people in the U.S. it did as well. And it all sort of came along with the Me Too movement in Southern California in particular, which also then rippled out to every facet of life, right? So it sort of started in Hollywood, and then all of a sudden we learned that actually this is in every field, and it's in yoga, and it's in Ashtanga yoga, you know.
100%.
And for me, that hit very hard, and I really wanted a way to talk about what was going on, about the findings, the sexual abuse, about the sexual misconduct, and the silencing that was going on. And so we sort of first started conceiving of this when I just felt like there was no avenue to talk about it. And I felt like we really needed to acknowledge what was being said, what was coming out, what was happening. And we needed a space to do that felt full of friendship and ways of moving forward, rather than mired in pointing fingers and laying blame and stuck in the past. You know, I was sort of wondering, how do we as practitioners today, with this practice in our bones and in our bodies, how are we practicing in a way that is not replicating these systems of abuse and oppression and inherently skewed power dynamics? How are we as practitioners and teachers actually moving forward in a way that is really helpful and non-hierarchical and non-abusive? And so that's sort of where it formed for us. And at the time when we really started thinking about putting this together, no acknowledgement had been made by the official lineage holder, and or you know, who some people think is the official lineage holder, and we just didn't see anyone in a place of power that was really handling and talking about these things in a way that made sense to us or to me. You know, as a woman who has experienced sexual assault, I didn't feel seen and heard and understood. And I wanted to, it wasn't just that I didn't feel seen and heard and understood, but that I wanted to talk to other people and see how they were feeling, you know, and there wasn't really a platform to do that.
Sometimes it's important to create a platform because a lot of people maybe feel like they would like to speak out, but maybe, you know, it's difficult because you don't have the right means, or you don't think other people are going to support you. So I think it's amazing to create a platform for that to happen, for sure. Right?
Well, we had no idea if people were going to support us. We were terrified. You know, Spiro was very certain that this was, you know, that we had to keep going, but it was very scary because we didn't know if people were going to support it. And we really didn't know. I mean, there was a moment where we said, well, yeah, go ahead, Spiro.
I mean, hold the thought on that moment when we were, but what I was just going to say is that we use that sort of impetus, that fuel, to also broaden the discussion to a bunch of other much-needed topics, which is also where are we going, what's going on with Hindu nationalism in India, what's going on with arguments among the leaders, you know, in India and Mysore, lawsuits and things like that, that nobody likes to talk about. What's going on with our idea of what practice is? You know, is there something that happens after we learn series? You know, is it just that's our fate, or do we do other stuff? Is there improv, which some teachers have done? Also, how do we look at the power dynamics of any yoga room? And what do we think about in terms of power and friendship and the fact that we're always still learning? And what do we think about a post-guru culture? And what does that look like? How are we more kin? You know, we are more kin to a lot of Krishnamacharya students and other students and teachings along the way. So we wanted to broaden the net and be like, this is largely fueled by a Me Too impetus, but at the same time, we're asking deeper contemplative questions. I mean, we're all kin here. So we just want to hold a circle and actually get outside of social media and other brittle platform and actually just see each other in space and time and breathe together and listen to each other. And
yes, I'm curious if you could speak for a minute on certain maybe important things that you touched on in power dynamics in the lineage. I think that that's really important, and I've thought about that a lot in regards to things that have been transferred from our ancestors to us, and maybe if you had any sort of insights at kinship around what's, I don't know, yogic and what's not yogic.
I mean, I think, I'll just speak very briefly, and Erica, you can continue. But I really want to speak about when Erica and I started teaching together. Because there's a lot of things that we pick up when we're teaching alone in a classroom. And there's a lot that we actually don't really think about. It happens gesturally, it comes from feeling and gesture. And we don't even think about, well, what is that? How's that carried? But with Erica there, someone I care about a lot, who I also, we started questioning each other. And it's constantly in negotiation on everything that we actually didn't even realize that we were holding and gesturing towards. So it's a nonstop conversation. And sometimes it's like stuff that we didn't know we carried. And sometimes it wasn't the proper thing to be doing. But we had no idea. There was no one else there that we would be defensive. But then at the same time, we would look at each other and be like, this person doesn't really want to offend me. They're trying to help. So I should listen. I'm the teacher. She's the teacher. We have to listen to each other. So that whole dynamic of actually listening to someone that you actually care for and respect as a friend, that is actually that's a part of the whole power dynamic that we don't. It doesn't come easily, and so what attracted me to Ashtanga yoga in the beginning was that there was no words. There's nobody saying stuff. It's just me with others, but we're all, struggling, working, contemplating, wrestling with ourselves in an empty space. It's a little bit like staring at a white wall for years and years and years in meditation, except it's just a yoga mat. But a lot of stuff is transferred in that, and a lot of stuff we pick up that we don't know where it comes from. And so in that sense, it was really helpful to look at the power dynamic by looking at someone else that I'm actually working with.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I also feel it's very refreshing. For example, one thing that really sort of hit me, it's the fact that there's been a lot of online bashing on, all the, some of the major, Ashtanga yoga people. And I feel that, what you're saying about, learning that the other person is there and respecting the other person and sort of being open and sort of creating something when there is sort of, it's like a movement of people in the same direction is really important and refreshing and compassion, for the others and for, everybody's condition and everybody, at what level they are, in their own life. So I find what you said, really refreshing.
Also just a little bit of a looser grip on what we think we know. A lot of us, we've just been taught by different teachers. I think we've been taught that lineage is this ladder, or this string from top to bottom. And it just is like this rung, there's rungs, and we can trace it back in this sort of line that's vertical up and down. And I think really the teachings are much more like this string figure, it's something that we're all weaving. It's like a tapestry. And it definitely doesn't just go from the top down. This tradition, this lineage, these teachings have been passed on in many different ways to lots of different people and infused with each of their own contexts and histories and anatomies and capacities. And then that's what we get. And then we mix it with our own unique composition and pass that on and assume that what we're teaching is quote unquote as we've been taught. And I just don't think that's something that's really even possible to replicate. And that became really clear when Spiro and I started teaching together, because we thought, oh, well, sure, we had different teachers, but they're both sort of old school, and senior teachers. And of course they learned the same way. And so of course we learned the same way. And so we teach the same way. And that's just not true. It really is more of this beautiful, tangled tapestry.
Totally. I think the dogs agree with you as well, right, dogs?
Absolutely.
Yeah, they totally do. Yeah. I feel that's a beautiful thing of, creating, it's basically, okay, we're all, in the Ashtanga world, right? But it's sort of like a worldwide movement, it's kind of like a language that everybody speaks no matter where you go in the world, like, you can go practice in India and, everybody speaks that language, the Ashtanga language, wherever you guys are, wherever I am. And it's kind of awesome because then everybody sort of filters it in their own way. And everybody's like, a vessel of sort of like the same thing. But then it comes out different in a way,
Very much. It's a convention that we all agree to and we find fruit from.
Yeah, exactly. That's pretty cool. So what's the next step? You guys want to, come to the East Coast or?
Yeah, we're hoping to. It was such a beautiful gathering. So we held it in December of last year, 2019. And, again, we really didn't know if anyone was going to be into this. We didn't know if we were going to be just totally alone out on a limb. And it was really incredible, the people who showed up in really courageous vulnerability to just be together, despite the fact that it was a little bit vague, and we didn't even necessarily have any set expectations or goals. It was really more of just let's come together in friendship and kinship and at least just start somewhere, and one of the metaphors that came up a lot as we were going through the weekend was this idea that we as practitioners and teachers, we're a little bit like compost at the moment. Like things got really dark, and things got really fertile at the same time. We all had the opportunity to look really deeply at what's been going on in the Ashtanga yoga world, in the larger world. Like Spiro said, the Me Too movement definitely sparked this, but it then became so much larger than Me Too. And we realized that, wow, there's a lot of opportunity to look at what's going on for ourselves in our own practices and in our own shalas and communities. And it's kind of fertile soil for deep work. And it's not easy work. But there is opportunity for beautiful things to bloom. And so people left really excited in different ways about carrying this on in various ways that make sense to them. So I think that we will have another Kinship California this year, but we'd also like to, and we've been asked to bring it to New York or the East Coast. And so we're looking forward to organizing that. And one of the other things that came up is this idea that we can practice without a head teacher or without a guru at the lead. When we came together throughout kinship, we practiced in a circle. Spiro mentioned the circle earlier, and the circle as this place of trust, but also focus and intention, and allowing for fluidity. It's sort of a symbol of wholeness and completeness. And also everyone is on the same level, right? There's no one at the head. There's no one in the back. There's no one behind or in front. There's no hierarchy in that sense. And so what came out of that was just, let's have a week or two where we can come together as a circle of practitioners without a lead teacher, and both practice and have community and times where we share other practices that we're working on, meditations, things like that. And also just talk about what's going on for us in our shells and communities. Because I think one of the things that all of us as teachers really long for, and one of the things that has brought us together is this love of practice and this desire to share a little time that we're not bogged down by, the daily teaching, which can be very intense, waking up every day early in the morning to practice and then teach. We're not bogged down by bills and, just sort of all the day-to-day stuff. So can we come together simply as practitioners to circle up and be together and share in community and space? So we don't yet have a title for that, but I'm thinking of it as sort of a practitioner symposium, and we're hoping to hold one of those over the summer.
That is an amazing hashtag.
Sorry.
One of the great things about Mysore and coming together, Mysore, is it's almost like what happens after you practice. There's a lot of hanging out. There's a lot of this and that. But there's also like a special way that we allow ourselves to get out of our normal time and space and share time together with people from all over that we don't know or we've heard of or this or that, and have some time to build genuine friendships. And we were like, well, it's always great to go to India, but what about doing something in the U.S.? Why don't we just have a week or two where we're together and we can have some, maybe some teachings or sharings littered throughout the day that we can opt in or not, and but just have a little time to work on our practice and to talk about our life back home. So
and part of the larger issues that come up as we talk about towers falling and systems crumbling is just the climate crisis that we're all in the midst of. And so outside of any other things, just sort of what if we don't want to be contributing to, these massive flights halfway around the world? What if we again got together here and sought a little bit of that peer-to-peer connection and mentorship and collectivity that does just really come naturally when we're all together.
I think creating that bond is sort of like a very strong, creates a very strong energy. I think that's really good, moving forward, creating a bond with people.
Mm-hmm.
One of the great things about the idea of compost is also that we sort of grow from that. Like Erica was mentioning, flowers bloom, but the blooming can be, outside of the framework. We use the framework because it's a standard rhythm, standard medium with our body and our mind, and it's definitely the convention that allows us all to come together. But once we know the convention, we can also create other things. It's in fact, our practices have permeated outward into other parts of our lives. How is that affected? How has that grown? How can we look at it? What are the essential qualities of Ashtanga yoga? Is it following a series, looking like a photo book and coming in and having an idealized idea of a perfect jump back or handstand or, third series pose? Or is it something more personal, something deeper that doesn't actually have, doesn't always look the same for each person, and sometimes they can look quite different, but there's a quality of our mind, of our breath, of our gesture, and those qualities can be applied to almost anything, and we can, in a sense, call it Ashtanga yoga.
Yeah, eventually it becomes a microcosm of life. With Alexis, we've discussed that with Guy in several occasions, and it sort of like becomes a mirror of yourself, your life.
So what does it have to do with gardening? What does it have to do with other forms of gestures and breath movements? So we're up for discussion.
And other beings, other creatures, as Spiro's talking about compost and its regenerative growing powers, you know, we also talk about how mycelia can grow from that, you know, sort of these rhizomatic networks. And so, yeah, what is the relationship between Ashtanga yoga, even in other networks, you know, other creatures that form communities and practices.
Totally.
And one of our first things is we had creative other things that we were wanting to do with our time in Los Angeles, but we always looked at Ashtanga yoga and the practice and having an open space, a Mysore-like room, as the substrate. But from the substrate grow many other things, you know. But the mycelium is the networking. They all sort of carry energies and electricities and sparks, and so from that, many other things grow. A whole forest grows, and in that sense, we're like, okay, that's part of what we're doing is yoga and our own self-practice, and with or without a group. But then other things supports other things, other parts of our lives. In what way does that happen?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, I just love what you guys are saying. You know, like I'm lost in your words because they sound really inspiring, and it's it's awesome to hear. You know that you know, getting to the core, you know, of what we do, you know, what we're looking for, of the fact that, you know, it's important to, you know, unite with other, you know, human beings, and it doesn't matter, you know, where you come from or what you do. And yeah, it's pretty inspiring. You guys, I approve. You guys rock.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's really empowering. It gives the agency back to the students, back to practitioners.
What do you say, Alexis? Say that again, please.
Yeah.
Oh, I said it's really empowering what they're doing, and I really, I'm inspired and motivated to use this to transform Ashtanga back into true yoga, to keep the yoga true.
Totally. I mean, I wanted to ask you something about something you said earlier. So it's just like a little step back. You know, when you say like it's scary because you didn't know how people were going to perceive, you know, kingship and all that. And I wonder if sort of like having each other, you know, you guys, Eric and Spiro, like having each other's back as sort of like feels like a safe net, you know, that like maybe allows you to like take risks and do something like you guys did.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think in all of the things that we've done, you know, when one person is having doubts, the other person is sort of there cheerleading, and then it switches, you know, and we sort of can encourage each other and challenge each other and push each other, and that support system is really important. And yeah,
I mean, there's a lot of. Go for it.
Go ahead, Spiro.
Continue on. I was just going to mention also that while we support each other fully, we also are super critical of each other.
Yeah.
So we're constantly like, well, what about this view? Well, what about this? Well, what about these people? And if you say that, then this implies that, you know, so what does that mean? You know, how can we consider that? So it's a two-edged sword.
I mean,
that's what I meant by challenge.
So valuable.
Yeah. We definitely push each other, and I think that we push each other to, you know, risk taking and places that we wouldn't go on our own.
I mean, I feel that's where the magic happens. It's like when you leave like comfort zone and you're like in that like, you know, crazy land of unknown. I feel that's where, you know, magic happens and, you know, like history starts, you know?
Yeah, me too.
Exactly. And that's what's so great about the
like
mess
divining
that the world of Ashtanga Yoga is in right now. It's that, you know, it's actually absolutely. Like we can take off the shackles.
We can do something like this. Yeah.
No, totally. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
and
looking
speaking
forward to
what
having you guys in New
Alexis
York.
said, sorry.
Sorry, Erica, what were you saying?
I was just going to say, yeah, I think Spiro's right. It's so exciting right now because we are sort of liberated in a lot of ways. And we have this great opportunity to take a deeper look at what's going on in Ashtanga Yoga. And speaking back to what Alexis said, that, yeah, it really is this opportunity to also include students in the conversation in a way that hasn't been done before in my experience. And so one of the really neat things about kinship was that it was not just teachers. This was not just an authorized teachers gathering. This was authorized teachers. It was people who are not in the KPJ AYI lineage or the Sharat Joyce Yoga Center lineage. It was people who have given back their authorization. It was students who've been practicing for 3 months and students who have been practicing for 3 decades. And everyone was on even playing field, right? We were all in a circle together and everybody had equal opportunity to speak and share and contribute and have their voice heard. And so I think that agency and empowerment and opportunity to really practice deep embodied listening with one another, no matter who you are or what your lineage is, or, it was just this very inclusive circle.
Yeah, the more you talk about it,
we're headed, right? Non-hierarchical ways of practicing, teaching, and sharing in community.
Totally. The more you talk about it, the more I feel the New York event is going to be like Woodstock of yoga, and it's going to be legendary.
I hope so.
Let's see how things go.
Absolutely.
Totally. Let's have Santana and, Jefferson Airplane playing while we practice.
Perfect.
We also, I'm Californian and Spiro is more New York. And so we do have these. Sometimes he has to interpret my languaging from a New York vantage point and remind me to tone it down.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm really grateful that, I'm talking to you guys right now. And even though I'm staring at a wall in a studio in New York, I hope to be, seeing you in person pretty soon and, and live through this. I think it's an amazing
likewise.
time.
I'm really excited. Yeah. I think this is going to be a really pivotal year. It's already so crazy and it's only January. And I'm really excited to transform the lineage with you guys and heal the parampara.
Yeah.
And also maybe play Hanuman Chalisa.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. We look forward to that. Yeah, and thank you so much for just making the space to talk to us and for being interested in what it is that we're collectively creating. Just again, it's not just the two of us. It really became sort of this collective collaboration, and that collected, diverse, inclusive collaboration is so much a part of it. So, we were able to sort of hold this container, but it's so much bigger than that. And so I'm so happy to have both of you and your sanghas and communities and Shala as part of the circle as well.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, guys, thank you. I don't know. Alexis, have an amazing rest of your day in Goa. Spiro.
Yeah, enjoy your evenings on the other side of the world. Thank you so much, you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, we definitely will. Thank you, guys. So, just the boring stuff. You can contact us at yogisontheroad@gmail.com. You can do yogis.ontheroad on Instagram, and you guys, how do people contact you guys? Through LA Yoga Club?
LAyoga.club is one way.
Go Spiros. Yeah. Spiro, sorry.
Yes, LAYogaClub.com. Excuse me, not scratch that. LAYoga.club. That's one way. And we have a lot of people that are tuning into us also with our newsletter, Almanac, which you can sign up at the bottom of the page or go to layc.substack.com.
Awesome. And you guys have Instagram as well?
We do, layoga.club.
Okay, that's easy. Okay, they're easy. Come on. Awesome.
We're also on Twitter.
Cool.
So people can peek into it
Very
in various ways.
Yeah, and we'll definitely be sharing more information about the kinship event as it gets closer.
Yeah,
Looks
totally.
like
Yeah,
we'll
we're
have
really looking forward to planning that.
Yeah, we're hoping to have two things. One is a weekend, maybe including a Friday, so get together on Thursday on the East Coast through the weekend, and then something maybe earlier, maybe around summer solstice. Right now I'm in Taos, so we've been looking at a lot of places here. We're not quite sure yet, but maybe a week or two of practice together.
Wow, that'd be nice.
Yeah, and if people want to sign up for the newsletter, that's how we'll be sharing information. The newsletter /almanac, we send it on the new and full moon, and we share all information there. So we'll be keeping people posted about kinship gatherings. We also share just what we're reading and what we're interested in, and what's happening in the stars, things like that.
Yeah, cool. I mean, also, needless to say, we'll use our, channels to sort of, spread the word. And whoever is listening, whoever is interested in spreading the word, spread the word to your channels, and let's use the web as a web and, make this happen.
Awesome.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Cool.
Thank you guys so much.
Guys, thank you so much for being part of this. Thank you. I mean, we'll talk later, but thank you very much for now. Awesome. Ciao.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. Thank you.
Thank you both. Bye.
Ciao.
Ciao.